So. Kazuma. Wo ist die Office denn? Prosecutor's Office. The private office of Lord Baroque van Zieks and within the Prosecutor's Office building. For the time being, however, it has been the workplace of Kazuma Asogi. We have permission now. Let's play Kazuma-sama a visit. Let's do this. Da ist das Bild wieder von Baroque. 2nd November, Prosecutor's Office. So, this is the office of Prosecutor Asogi now, is it? Und jetzt hat er da ein kleines Modell von dem Raum, wo Gregson gestorben ist. Vorher die Great Exhibition, jetzt der kleine Raum. Ist ja irgendwie cool. Kazuma-sama is doing so well for himself. Even though he's always forced to kneel on the floor, Japanese style, in that dark corner. It's his habit to sit Caesar style whenever he's working. Kazuma. I thought it wouldn't be long before you paid me a visit, Ryunosuke. I was right about what I said, wasn't I? Sorry? That you have all the makings of a great defense lawyer. Well, I always believed that you'd fulfill your dream of advocating in the British courts. I just never imagined for 1 second that it would be as a prosecutor. Seeing you stand in a foreign courtroom, so gallantly realizing your dream, Kazuma-sama, I am truly happy for you. And I am truly thankful to you, Judicial Assistant Ms. Ikotoba. Ryunosuke, I always thought it would be fun for you and I to shake up the British legal system a little together. This isn't quite how I envisaged it, but I suppose it's just another twist of fate. I've learned a lot of things during my time in London. About how Susato-san's father was himself a visiting student here once, along with Judge Jigoku. And about what happened with your father. Then you have no difficulty understanding why I had no choice, why I had to find a way to get to Britain as a visiting student myself. I want to hear it from you, Kazuma. As you wish, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Okay. To get to witness a visiting student myself. Okay. Dann reden wir mal mit ihm. Your disappearance. It's getting on for a year now, since what happened on the SS Boya. We were heading across the oceans from Japan to Great Britain, when a bizarre series of coincidences led to those tragic events. I thought I'd lost my best friend forever. I must have been unconscious for a long time. When I awoke, I was lying on a bed. It was a narrow little room. There was a posy of flowers by the pillow. It took me a little while to realize that I was in the cabin of a ship. I slipped out of the room and headed up onto the deck. Were you already suffering from amnesia at that point? Yes, I didn't know what had happened or where I was. There was just this voice in my head. You have something you have to do, something no one else can know about. Go to Great Britain, your task awaits you there. Aber was für eine Stimme. It was a calling I couldn't ignore. It compelled me relentlessly. Out on deck, I saw that I was on a huge steamship and we were docked in a large port. It must have been Hong Kong. Yes, it must have been, presumably just before they were due to carry your body off the ship. I had no idea of the situation, but I did have the feeling that this was in some way my last chance. so I concealed myself among the disembarking passengers and went ashore. Then I disappeared into the crowded streets of that foreign port city, so I could plan my onward journey to Great Britain. Your journey to Britain. Just under a year ago, with all my past memories lost to me, I was left behind in Hong Kong. Everything was foreign to me. The sights, the sounds, the smells. My head reeled. I was truly at a loss. I realized now that I'd escaped as a dead man, with nothing but the clothes on my back, no money of course. Oh, how terrifying for you. Luckily though, I had 2 feathers in my cap. One being your knowledge of English, I suppose. That's right, and on the back of that I was able to pick up some work as a deckhand on a cargo ship. Eventually, after calling at countless ports, I finally arrived at Dover. That must have been some 3 months ago now. Your formidable tenacity of purpose showing itself again. I mean, the man had lost his memory and had literally nothing to his name. But he still managed to make his way to London on the opposite side of the world. Das ist schon beeindruckend. Tenacity ist Zähigkeit, okay, Hartnäckigkeit. Of course, I had no idea why I'd moved heaven and earth to get here at that point. So, how did you end up becoming Lord Van Ziek's apprentice then? That can only be called an extraordinary stroke of luck really. You see, I was stopped at the border because I had no papers. They took me straight to Scotland Yard. And by sheer coincidence, Lord Strongheart was there to attend the meeting. That's when the second feather in my cap came into play. Would that have been your knowledge of the law? Yes, exactly. Lord Strongheart was curious about an Easterner with intimate knowledge of British law. He took me back with him to the Supreme Court and assigned me to the prosecutor's office. And then, 9 days ago, you finally got your memory back after the trial involving Mr. Drebber. Yes, I did. Your father Genshin. Ever since I first met you at Yumei, you talked about your dream. Mark my words, Leonoske, I'll be chosen as a visiting student and make my way to Great Britain someday. Did you know the entire time about what happened to your father here? 16 years ago. No. When my father left on that exciting trip to Great Britain, I was just a boy. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. It's my last memory of him. Und wie alt war er da? Wie alt ist Kazuma jetzt? Weil da ist Kazuma 24 und vor 16 Jahren war dann 14, 8 war da. We took a photograph together the day before his departure. It's my last memory of him. But what I remember most about my father is his unswerving sense of justice. 6 years after he left, a gentleman called at our family home. He told me that Genshin, my father, had been taken ill in England and passed away. It was Professor Mikotoba, your father, Susato-san. Oh my! Also hat er gelogen? Ever since then, the professor was very good to me. He even helped to fund my university education if you may. I'll be forever in his debt. But nevertheless, I just couldn't bring myself to believe what he told me. Oh. Then one day a letter arrived at our house from Britain. There was no indication of the sender, so I opened it, assuming it was from an old acquaintance of my father. What I read in that letter changed my entire life. What did it say? What did it say? It said that my father had been a mass murderer, and the writer cursed the Azogi name. Oh no! As a result of that letter, I found out what had been hidden from me all those years. Letter from Britain. Das war also seine Mission. Das war seine Mission, quasi zu erfahren, was wirklich mit seinem Vater geschehen ist. Glaube ich zumindest. Letter from Britain. Presumably, the letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. If whoever it was had been a member of the judiciary, he could have been present at the closed trial. The letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer. The letter was sent from a relative of one of the victims. A member of the judiciary would have been present at the closed trial. Okay. I'm so sorry you had to find out that way. I imagine the British government did its very best to silence whoever sent that letter. But someone who knew the truth and couldn't bear the resentment was always going to be a problem. But still, it could have been written by anyone. Why would you believe such a thing? Okay, the letter revealed that my father had been sentenced to death, executed for being a killer. Would you believe such a thing? There was a newspaper cutting included with the letter. It was the first I'd ever heard of the professor and his terrible killing spree. Well, what did my father have to say about the letter? I couldn't bring myself to show it to him. What? Why not? Because he deliberately concealed the truth from me by telling me my father was taken by a fatal illness that couldn't have been easy for him, and he'd done it out of consideration for my feelings. So instead, I showed the letter to Judge Jigoku. To the other visiting student. He faltered for the briefest of moments, but then he just laughed the letter off. But in that moment, I saw it on his face. He was undeniably shocked, shaken momentarily, before recovering his poise. A year later, my bereaved mother succumbed to the strain of grief, and she too passed away. Okay. That's when I made up my mind, that one day, without fail, I would cross the seas to Britain, and seek the truth for myself. The truth about my father, Genshin Azogi. And I wouldn't let anyone stand in my way. Oh, Kazuma-sama. The Reaper's Trial. Das ist also Kazumas Motivation, Kazumas Geschichte, warum er nach Großbritannien gekommen ist. Hätte man sich auch denken können, spätestens seitdem man weiß, dass der Vater der Professor ist. Oder dass er überhaupt einen Vater hat, der mal in Großbritannien war. Aber, ja, verständlich auf jeden Fall. What we learned today in court turned things completely on their head. It was an impressive piece of lawyering, Uyonosuke Naruto. Du kannst mich ruhig Uyonosuke nennen, ist alles in Ordnung. Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper, you know? I almost don't want to believe it myself, but it turns out that Inspector Gregson himself, the victim, was... It's clear that the Inspector was behind the Reaper's activity all along. What? You mean you knew? The real question is, who's been giving orders to the Inspector? Yes, Baroque Van Zieks is the real Reaper. And I know that 10 years ago, it was him. Who decided my father must be a mass murderer and sent him to his grave. No! He was merely seeing that justice was done as his law dictates. He's not to blame. Ultimately, it's people who condemn people. The law is just a tool that they use to do it. And when a man condemns another, he must take responsibility for his actions. Of course he must. But I know for certain that my father would never have taken another man's life. Kazuma. On the contrary, my father's life was taken. By the Reaper. The Reaper's Trial, okay. Zeigen wir ihm doch nochmal, ja, was zeigen wir ihm denn am besten? Haben wir sonst irgendwas außer Das hier was zu seinem Vater related? Nein, oder? Das sind ja Sogi Papers. Kazuma, what do you make of this? There's only one place where defense lawyers and prosecutors should discuss evidence, the courtroom. So it seems you are still confused by the situation. That's what I make of it. I get the feeling my friend's always going to have the edge over me, isn't he? Okay. Müssen wir ihm denn noch was zeigen, oder? Ich wüsste gerade auch nicht was. Tatsächlich. Present, was haben wir denn noch? Scheinbar nicht. Oder? Okay. Okay, haben wir noch was, was wir ihm zeigen können? Das hier vielleicht? Kazuma, what do you make of this? Okay. He's always going to have the edge over me, isn't he? Können wir ihm noch was zeigen? Haben wir noch irgendwas? Was wir ihm zeigen können? Als ob. Als ob. This came up in the trial, didn't it? As something a little dubious, I mean. The fact that no time of death was recorded on Inspector Gregson's autopsy report. Yes, there were some unexpected turns in the courtroom earlier. The suggestion you came up with certainly took everything by surprise. Everything or everyone? Everyone wahrscheinlich, ne? Took everyone by surprise, okay. The idea that the victim died the previous day at some other location is quite something. Well, considering when the pocket watch had stopped and the scorch marks on the candle, it's certainly a distinct possibility. The evidence and the scene both point to it. To be honest, it bothered me too, so I paid a visit to the autopsy room earlier. The coroner responsible wasn't there, but I got a name. It's Dr. Galway. If it wouldn't trouble you, Kazuma-sama, we'd very much like to speak with the coroner too. Of course, the last thing I want is for anything to be brushed under the carpet. Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory is behind Lowgate Cemetery. By Barclay Prison, you mean? Ah, you know it, do you? The prison where my father was incarcerated and robbed of his life. Kazuma-sama. Well, thank you. We'll pay a visit to the laboratory later today. Hä, aber wir wussten doch schon, wo das ist. Oder nicht? Wir haben es doch schon gefunden quasi im letzten Fall, als wir bei Dings waren. Bei Dr. Seiss, so heißt sie. Ryunosuke. I want to thank you. What for? For this. You safeguarded the soul of the Asogi clan. Well, it is a famous sword that's been in your family for generations. My only slight regret is that I never got the chance to draw it before I returned it to you. Karuma is said to have been forged by a master swordsmith during the Sengoku Warring States period. I come from a long lineage of warriors, many of whom were expert swordsmen. Well then, you're a chip of the old block, I'd say. This blade, Karuma, is a symbol of the Asogi clan's honor and might. Apparently, one of my father's apprentices even took the blade's name for his surname. Really? Karuma? It does sound formidable, that's for sure. 16 years ago, when my father was a visiting student here in London, he had his sword forever at his side. Which is why it means so much to me that I have it by my side again now too. And that is all thanks to you. It was an honor. Okay. Now, I have preparations to make for tomorrow. Perhaps I said a little too much. Kazuma, you've changed. No, Yonosuke, I haven't changed at all. It's you who's changed. I can completely understand your resentment of Lord Van Zieks given what happened. But the fact is, those events in this case are, well, unrelated. Is that what you want to say? How can you be so sure? What do you mean? Never mind. Okay. That man is the Reaper, and it's for that reason that the inspector was killed. I'm going to prove as much in court tomorrow, by whatever means necessary. I can't let you do that, Kazuma. I know you do what you have to as a lawyer, but I'm sure I don't need to tell you that I won't be taking any prisoners in the courtroom. I would expect nothing less. Until tomorrow then, in the Old Bailey. Okay. Okay, a new location has been added. Forensics Laboratory. A forensic science laboratory in the basement of St. Singer's Hospital. Dr. Goway has taken Dr. Theis' place as a chief scalpel wielder. Genau. Forensics Laboratory. Second November. Forensics Laboratory. This place really is creepy, isn't it? Wo kommt Iris denn auf jetzt einmal her? Also wahrscheinlich war sie die ganze Zeit da, aber gerade hat sie sich ja gar nicht beteiligt in der Konversation. Well, being a dead room, it's probably full of the spirits of the dissected. But actually, there's a rather pleasing scent of roses in the air. Well, being a dead room. The coroner probably needs a bold scent like that to mask the odor of death. Iris, do you think we could change the subject? What was that? Dr. Goway? What? That noise before? I was sharpening my tools. I'd be dead meat if I didn't keep a perfectly clean edge on them. Right. When following the collagen fibers of the dermis, an expertly sharpened scalpel cuts like cheese. Would you like a demonstration? Oh, yes please, I'd love to see. Then, I think you'll do nicely. No, I wouldn't do nicely at all. I mean, maybe some other time. Was it a tat? Well, we came here to ask questions, so... Okay, was ist ein Tat, ist die Frage. Tat. Nein, auf Englisch, nicht tut. Oh mein Gott. Tat. Tat. Sich über etwas mokieren. Okay. Okay. Alles klar. Gut, dann würde ich sagen, reden wir mal mit der guten Mariah Carey. Ist sie eigentlich Doktor? Ist sie ein Doktor? Mariah Carey, the daughter of Dr. Tice, who is also a coroner like her mother. She carries out all the autopsy works on corpses. Und der Autopsy Report? Okay, sie ist kein Doktor. Alles klar, das ist gut zu wissen.